We should be all right. Future millionaires, we should be live. Me and Rob got caught up kind of talking about our own things in the background. So I apologize for that. But today we're going to be talking about the market a little bit, Solana and Cardano. And so, first things first, I just want to give a big shout out to Rob for coming on the show today. And Rob's one of
Yeah.
those humble business successful crypto YouTuber guys who gives out a lot of good information. I know I said like a tongue twister there, but Rob's a guy I've been able to kind of build a good rapport relationship with in YouTube and crypto, and just some similarities we have. And so I want to kind of get his knowledge on crypto, kind of where we are today, and with us reaching that 50K again back in the market. And so, Rob, how are you doing today, and what is going on with the crypto market?
Hey, Mike. Thanks for having me on again. It's always good to be on the show. So, first of all, that was really nice. I try to give out as much information as I possibly can in the best way possible. Don't always get it 100% correct, but hey, who's perfect, right? As far as the market goes, I mean, look, everybody who is watching this video and me and Mike just sitting here, these are great days. These are the best days because, I mean, everything that me and Mike have been talking about, and a lot of different and a lot of YouTubers that are within our circle have been talking about the same thing, which is just be patient. Don't go all in. Don't go crazy. Don't sell your house, your kids and your kidneys to put it all into crypto. Just dollar cost average. Just make sure you're safe, and then it'll actually come. And the richest people on the planet are not day traders. They're just investors. They are the Warren Buffetts. They are the Charlie Mungers. They are take your pick. And that's just really what it comes down to, just buying and holding. And these are the days that we should be celebrating because we did it. I mean, this was exactly all the hard work and all the different things we had to do. So great days right now. And who knows what's ahead.
Yes, great days. These are definitely the days we want to enjoy. And so, one key thing that you talked about, you put out a video yesterday, and not to go too deep in that, Rob, but you were talking about just looking at the past, just 4 year swings, and just kind of
Yeah.
how you can look at where things were at the top 10 at different periods, like 2016, 2017, and now we look at here we are in 2021, and we have different cryptos that's kind of creeped up. And so kind of what's your thoughts on that and kind of where we are seeing now? We've just seen the market. We're kind of at like 2.3 trillion as we speak, getting close to that all-time high again at 2.6 trillion. So what are your thoughts on that?
So what I did was I just took us back in a little time warp. And because I never got to go through, I went through the 2017 bull run. But I got in late. And it was almost like I was cheating because I got in November, like the very last part of November, when everything just went it was like right here, and then it just went just straight up. And I never had to like go through the ups and the downs. I never had a dollar cost average. I just put a bunch of money in, and I just said, okay, I'm a financial genius now. And then of course we all know what happened in like 45 days after that. It all pretty much crashed. So I said that this right now. September 1st, which was yesterday, right? Yeah, September 1st. I said, this is what it must have felt like for all those people who were in crypto in 2012, 13, 14, 15, and 16. They probably did all this hard work before, and they had to deal with all this volatility and all their friends and family calling them, complete morons and idiots for investing into an asset class that is just vaporware and is going to go away and it's not going to actually happen. And I thought, man, this right now, September 1st, 2021, is what it must felt like around September in 2017. All that hard work, and now here we are. And I took a look I went through CoinMarketCap, and they have a nice little history section where you can just go through like different months and see what the actual price is and the total market cap for all the different digital assets. And it was crazy. Remember, there was like Bitcoin was like $1,800 or something like that. And then Ethereum, I think, was like $125. And then I just took us like through a little journey, like how it just went from it just went up and up and up. Then it went a little sideways, took a little bit of a dip, and then went totally parabolic. And I said, back then, it was hard to fathom those numbers if you were there back then. And right now, I think it's the exact same thing. It's hard to fathom those numbers and go, man, Bitcoin 100,000 and Ethereum 8,000 and Cardano $5-6, and Solana at 250, and then Tomato Coin at 1 million, whatever it is. So like, I think it's pretty tough to wrap our head around it. But Mike, there's this great. Let me share something real quick.
Yeah,
I'm gonna share just the tab. Oops, let me turn this off. And it's called all the money and markets in the world. So like I've talked about this like probably numerous times on my channel, but it's the same thing. If you take a look at this and just go, well, how much do we really have? This was created just a year ago, 2020, and each one of these little squares is $100 billion, which is a lot of money. I mean, if I had 100 billion, well, I'd probably still be here because there's only so much you can do with money. So like Bitcoin's a little bit. Here's the military spending, not too much. Budget deficit probably went up a little bit. Coins and banknotes, Fed's balance sheet, that's 7 trillion. We know that went way up. Here's all the billionaires. Here's all the gold in the world, $12 trillion. The Fortune 500 companies, you're looking at, God, how much is this? Trillions. The New York Stock Exchange or the stock markets, and you talked about this in one of your videos, how it was $100 trillion. And that's what's there. Here's the money supply. Here's the global debt. Here's the global real estate. And we've been talking about tokenizing everything that has to do with real estate. Here's the wealth. Here's the derivatives. Just keep going. So if you think that $2.2 trillion is crazy, it's not crazy. It's just the beginning. That's what I got there.
It really is just the beginning. And I think one thing that we harp on a lot is one of the hardest things to do with being early in the crypto space is being patient.
Oh, yeah.
Because we're so early in this space. And if we just look at how you kind of mentioned all of the money that's in the world, right? I mean, a ton of money. And if we just look at a few of the asset classes that we know, excuse me, is that going to go into crypto, far as real estate, far as stocks and bonds, far as bonds and loans. I mean, there's so much stuff that's going to go into crypto. And so when we kind of zoom out, like you always say, in doubt, zoom out. When we just zoom out and just look at where cryptos came from, 08 and 09 wasn't that long ago. And I think sometimes, as investors or as people, we forget how fast time moves, right? And so I think this is the right time to be investing, even if things are close at the all-time high. I think you should have that long-term perspective, which I think which will allow you to be more successful in the future.
Yeah, and it's a great point. And then also think about it this way. Back then in those days, in 2017, there was no huge institutions. There was no banks. There was no real railway system. It was all driven by retail investors. And that was a heck of a run. And now think of everything that we have in place in just 4 short years. So if you you just talked about like 08 and 09 wasn't too far away, but look how fast technology moves. And then if you can take a look at how fast cryptocurrency and digital assets move, if you can just extrapolate that and just see how things are actually going to increase, what we know right now and what crypto and digital asset does, we'll have no idea what it can actually do in 2, 3, 5, and 10 years. It'll look completely different. Because I can tell you right now, 2017, no one even uttered the names DeFi. It was like, what? And an NFT? That didn't exist. And it's the same thing that's going to happen in the next, like I said, 2, 5, 10 years.
I would agree. And so we had Solana and we had Cardano. We also had Bitcoin retraced to 50K. We had Ethereum that's getting close to 4K. And so we had, 4 of the top 10, cryptocurrencies that's kind of just went parabolic here in the last 30 days. Like, what are your thoughts on that, Rob?
My thoughts are, I get scared, and I'll be honest with you. And I know people are like, what? You're scared. I get scared because I am there's really 2 types of people out there, I think. Some are driven by gold medals and some are driven by dogs. And it's an old book that I read a long time ago. And some people are pulled to victory or they are pushed by fear. And a lot of times I'm pushed a lot by fear, and it kind of really works out for me. And actually the same thing, and I was like, when I was thinking about it, like I heard GSP say the exact same thing. George St. Pierre, one of the greatest MMA fighters, he said, look, he was the reason why I train so hard and do so many things and do all these, what I have to get prepared for is because I'm scared I'm going to get the tar kicked out of me and look like a fool on TV. And he goes, and that's why that propelled him. So I'm the same type of way. So like when I see these types of things, like everything's going parabolic, I get a little bit scared and go, okay, what's around the next corner? And I'm always trying to kind of offset some of my risks. Now I will let these things actually run because I'm excited. You know, I'm still excited, but now I'm always thinking to myself, when does the next shoe drop? How far up can we go? And if we take a look at back in the day, you know, like the video I talked about last time, in 2017, it just went this big, huge hockey stick. But it really does seem that we have some elongated type of time frames. So I don't think it's going to do like this huge parabolic straight up. I think it's going to do where it's just going to kind of go like this and then up and up. And then maybe February, March or so of next year, we're going to see some big, huge move because retail investors are going to FOMO like crazy. And then we do that. So that's what I see.
I hear you. And so kind of piggybacking off of that before we kind of maybe talk about why Solana's going up. What are your thoughts on this, Rob? And this is not no conspiracy or anything like that, but just kind of what history has kind of shown us, right? Is that typically, you know, every year we have some type of event, right, that kind of pushes forward the needle. And so I don't think we've really seen a huge, you know, catastrophic event that's happened this year.
No.
Whereas I think everything that's kind of happening has been like a spiral from what's happened last year, right? And so when we look at that, I think kind of two things, of course. I mean, I think it's easy for us to be up here and say the market's going to go up or it's going to go down. Of course, one of those two things will happen. But
this is true.
But, you know, I think for crypto to really see that next step up and like stay there, I think we're kind of waiting on some other event to really help push forward the crypto adoption. I could be wrong on that, but that's kind of what I think. What are your thoughts on that?
You know what? I was just thinking about this today, and I was listening to George over at Cryptos R Us, and he had a live stream, and he was talking about mass adoption. And actually, this kind of came back to yesterday's video, and what I showed was it was the same parabolic loop that every bubble, and we'll call it a bubble, goes through. And that was, and we overlaid it from the 1929 stock market crash. We overlaid it to the 2000 .com crash, and we overlaid it with the Bitcoin 2017 parabolic bull run. And it was the same thing. It would just, you know, kind of come here, a little bit of a dip. Smart money, institutional money comes in, little dip, little rise, and then it just goes parabolic, and everybody FOMOs in, and then it just crashes down again, and then off we go. And we've seen this twice. We saw this in 2013 for crypto. We saw this in 2017 again. But then what George was talking about, and he made a lot of sense, he goes, those other bubbles were bubbles, but now that we actually have the hedge funds, the institutions, the banks, the governments, the El Salvadors who are actually into this space, maybe this isn't like a bubble. Maybe this is mass adoption coming forth. It's the same thing as like the 2000 .com bubble. I don't think anybody's going to say that Google is a bubble. I don't think anybody's going to say that Facebook is a bubble. And those are the top, some of the top stocks that you can get in the S&P 500. So maybe things are just starting to, okay, we've gone through this. There was no railway coming in. Maybe now we're going to still see volatility. I mean, it has to go like that, right? The ups and the downs. But maybe we're going to see a lot more mass adoption. It's going to be hard to go all the way down. Now, that could be happening, but you know, scared Rob is like, well, I'm waiting for the shoe to drop. So when is the next crypto winter? And that's where you have to plan out and just make sure that you're not like going all in and going crazy, because you have to always be aware that these things can drop massively. So it's just a theory, but it's a good theory, but always be careful.
Absolutely. And I like that you said that, because I think at the end of the day, we're still human. And even like when we look at, you know, if we got any superhero fans out there, right? Fear is still what keeps them sane, right? That fear is still what keeps them kind of in their boundaries. So I don't think fear is a bad thing, you know, as investors, to be aware of what can happen, because we're still so new. The market's still so small. And so to see that volatility, a lot of people aren't used to. And so to be in something you're not used to is going to be kind of unsettling or uncomfortable. And so I think
Yeah.
when we wrap our heads around that, I think it gets a little bit easier to kind of deal with.
Yeah, and then fear keeps us alive. It's what allowed us to not get eaten by saber-toothed tigers, and it's exactly what happens right now. And we're not going 90 miles per hour in a school zone. But there are some people who like start to invest, and then all of a sudden, that for some reason that fear just gets switched off. And I saw this when I lived in Vegas. Friends around me, they would just start gambling, like, man, I'm up huge. I'm like, oh yeah, Pete. Well, how's it going for the year? Oh, I'm down like 30,000, but last night was awesome. I had 5,000 up, and that's, I think, where things get scary. So you got to have a little bit of fear, like you said, Mike, because if not, you just go crazy.
Yeah, I'd agree. I'd agree. And so I want to share the Solana chart here and just kind of look at some price action here
Sure.
because it just definitely went crazy. I mean, it went nuts. And so when we kind of look at the NFTs that's been going crazy, that could potentially be in the bubble as we speak, it's right around $123, and 77 cents per coin. And so if we move down to the chart and we just look at what the all-time high is 2 days ago, August 31st, last day of the month, $128.83. And we look at that all-time low just a little bit over a year ago, Rob, May 11th, 50 cents. So congratulations to anyone, that bought in around that price. That's a heck of a gain. What do you think about that?
I think, well, first of all, when did you start picking up Solana, Mike? How
I picked
far
up
ago?
Solana. I picked up Solana. I wasn't that fortunate, but I picked up around $30.
Yeah, that's pretty good. And I learned it from you and James and Invest Answers. So I always say thanks to you two guys for tipping me off on this one. And I actually passed on this one. When I heard about it, and people, like, I see it in the comment section, and you know how it is. Like, this is going to be awesome. This is going to be awesome. Oh yeah, on just like the other 1,000 different projects out there. And it's the same thing as like Charles Schwab would talk about it. And he would say, for every 100 businesses that we actually look into, 1 to 3 or whatever it is, actually has potential, can actually make us all those gains. So to go through all these different cryptocurrency and digital asset projects, it was very tough. And I just kind of had to flesh it out. I'm not one of those guys that can hit it at 50 cents. I can't do it. I think, well, two of my ones that I think could do very well is World Mobile Token and Meld. But besides those two, like, this one was like way off my radar. So when you guys started to talk about it, then I did my research, because I'm like, well, these are two guys that I trust and respect. So let me see what's going on here. And I took a look at the team, and they've been around for quite some time. The CEO, he was big into telecommunications. Qualcomm, I think, was his big proving grounds. And then they came up with that, instead of proof of work or proof of stake, proof of history. And I thought how interesting it was that you could do up to 50,000 transactions per second just there. And you could not solve, but they say they can solve, but really work out that whole trilemma, which was security, decentralization, and being able to scale in one shot. So to me, I was like, wow, if they can do that, people want it fast and they want it cheap. So this could be a big thing. And I started dollar cost average months and months and months ago. And the only regret I have, Mike, is that I had a dollar cost average on junky Coinbase, because it was the only place that carried it. And now Steve and the Voyager team just put it out on Voyager yesterday. And I was like, dang, I could have saved myself a lot of different funds and fees. So I just switched over to dollar cost averaging again over there. So yeah, I think it's going to do pretty well.
Yeah, I would agree. And like you said, we can't always hit it at that top or hit it at that bottom. And I think that goes to say, if we're prepared, the unexpected can happen to those type of investors, right? And so instead of, investing into a project and saying, oh, I think this is going to be the next one. Well, of course we want to make money, but if we actually understand what it's doing and everything like that, those people that, took that bigger risk, those are the people that really got that gain because they were prepared for it.
Exactly. And so what I think is, okay, I'm not gonna hit the 50 cents, but I mean, how many would I have to go through to lose out? I mean, Peter Thiel does that all day long, but he's also a multi-billionaire. Good for him. But I mean, I will say this, like, for all this money that is going into Solana, I mean, where is the top? I mean, when there was a James again at Best Answers, he put this out. It was in his Patreon. He talked about how Raul Pal had stated that Solana is the Ethereum of this cycle. And I thought to myself, man, if that was true, that would be awesome. Now, I don't think that it can hit those price points because you look at the token supply, right? Ethereum, you're looking at what's the token supply? 100 million, something like that.
Let's go to Ethereum and see.
Yeah, and then I think Solana is in the 300, 400 million or something like that. So yeah. to get there, I mean, you could get there, but it just takes a lot more money because there's a lot more tokens.
So 117 million for the circulating supply.
There you go. And that's for Ethereum.
Correct. And but Solana, I believe, is
burned.
Yes. And yeah. Solana, I believe, is like 266 million with a max supply of 500 million. And so let's take a look at Solana here and see where Solana is. And so if we look, so actually, no, a little bit more. So 290.7 million, and max supply is a little bit under that 500 million. So 488.6 million for the max supply.
Yeah, I think there's some locked up. Correct me in the comments, but so like right now, I mean, it can do great things, but I think you have to have that kind of supply if you want to do some real global type of integration. So yeah, we'll see how it goes, and then like we were talking before, they're just about to pop off their NFT marketplace, that SolC. So I mean, as anybody knows, I can't get into NFTs. I get it. I kind of get it. I know there's a lot of money to be made. I just don't get it. So like, I think that on the artwork, I don't understand on that part because I never was a big art collector, but I do see how NFTs could be exceptionally big for all types of athletes and musicians, and then also an NFT as far as like what Unstoppable Domains does. As far as like the websites, and then on top of the fact of if we actually had to record any type of land purchase or something like that, I can definitely see that coming down the road. But this I think could be big. Could be big.
Yeah, and so just briefly talking about NFTs, I'm not one of those people who really got into it either, so I'm in the same boat as you. Definitely think it's going to be here though to stay. But do you think as NFTs become more simplistic for people, do you think it will become a little bit more easier for people to invest? Do you think that could be some of the holdup of it now? Because for people that understand it's easy, but when you look at people that's just trying to buy their first cryptocurrency, it's a whole nother world for them, you know?
Yeah. I think, so this is what I think is going to happen. The way that mass adoption has to work, it's just like marketing, right? In marketing, you got to see something 7 to 10 times before you get it or you want to buy it. And what's really going to help is that all these different athletes, like I was talking to you about Des Bryant, and then we got Katy Perry, and then we got, take your pick. Everybody else is getting into NFTs, and these are like Major League Baseball, all the sports, NFL, soccer players. So like when they see that and they are bombarded with all of their favorite heroes, if you want to call them like that, or sports stars, they're going to be like, you know what, that makes a lot of sense. I'm going to get into that. And then there's the other spectrum. You have like the Bored Ape Yacht Club type of buyers, and then the CryptoPunks. That's a whole other level, I think, and that's out of my league. I am not getting a CryptoPunk for millions worth of Ethereum. I think it's not worth it. Not that it's not worth it. It would have been worth it if I would have picked it up in the beginning. I just don't understand that part of art. But I do understand a person who wants to own a collectible that is near and dear to their heart and will appreciate. So you'll see that in Major League Baseball things. On top of, I've always pronounced this wrong, Vivi or Vevi, they have a contract with DC Comics and Marvel, and you can pick up all those NFTs, and they're having like a drop of like Captain America and Avengers and things like that. So I can definitely see that, especially how big that is.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think one of the easiest ways to explain NFTs, non-fungible tokens, is it's pretty much digitizing scarcity, you know? Yeah. And so I think that's one of the easiest ways to explain it. And so one thing that I want to talk about before we move on to Cardano has hit an all-time high. And I definitely think we have more in the tank for sure. Now, of course, it depends on the market, but we got a lot coming up with Cardano. Like we got the smart contracts that should be launched September 12th of this year, this month as well, I believe. So we're going to be talking about that. But for Solana, when we look at the NFTs, do you think that's probably most of the price action that we're seeing today? Or do you think it's a whole effect of new awareness of retail investors like me and you, institutional investors? We had also the new trust that just got opened up by Osprey Funds, which is also big. And so, and then I've talked about in previous videos, we got 4 other major piece catalysts that haven't even affected the price yet. And so when you said, man, what is the price for Solana? Those 4 things is we got the Grayscale fund that's going to be coming out. We have USDC payments integration. We have the crypto electro vehicle integration that's going to be launched on Ethereum and Solana. And then we have tokenized stocks as well. None of those things have been integrated into the price yet. And so when we look at the power of Solana, man, it's like crazy, right?
You know what? It's so crazy that even Charles Hoskinson, you know, the top guy over at Cardano and IOHK, he even tweeted out and said, "Hey, you guys are on fire. Anything that you'd like to share with us?" And then it says DMs are open, and then he will probably look into it. And that's something to be said for, you know, one of the top cryptos to go, hey, you know what? Let's do this. It'd be like Bill Gates back in the day going to Steve Jobs. Hey, you guys are doing great things over there. Let's have a chat. They hated each other, so it's a little bit different. But yeah, like I mean, so those things that you said, I even forget about those things, about how crazy it is. So all the things that for the actual price action, how many other different projects have that many things going on right now? Very few. So you can see why some of these projects, I mean, they have 2 or 3 things going on. Solana has a lot more things, a lot of things going on, and you can see why things are going up. People are speculating this could be very big. And then, Mike, let me share my screen.
All right.
Window. Aha. So yeah. So like I was talking about that NFT marketplace. And I learned this from Crypto Stash. If you want to find out about NFT stuff, follow that guy. That guy knows everything about it. But Solsi, and it's going to open up in like less than a day. So I'm looking at this. I'm like, with all the NFTs that are going on, this has to be one of the like the 4 things you just talked about, Mike. The big catalyst for price appreciation. And if you could talk about timing, how perfect is this timing? If all this stuff happened, gosh, what, a year ago when we had that Black Swan event, this price wouldn't have moved. No one would have cared. They were like so scared because of the COVID-19. They were like, everything's falling, so on and so forth. And then like, this is what I was talking about. Des Bryant, he was talking about, you know, all these different athletes should get away from these legal contracts where they have to put up their likeness and their intellectual property essentially, and then put it all out there. He's like, you don't have to do that anymore, thanks to blockchain. And this is why. So it makes a lot of sense. And then this is the big thing. This is Metaplex. This is their standard on Solana. And what it really makes you to do, you can own your own NFT storefront just as easy as like building a website. So I thought to myself, man, this is, if there's just that part of it and the things you just talked about with the electric vehicles, USDC, the stablecoin being built on it, and then the other 2 ones I forgot. I mean, geez, I'm glad I'm continuing to dollar cost average to this day, because I think it could go up pretty dramatically.
Yeah, I would agree. And so as we kind of look at Cardano, it's number 3. And we look at the market cap, I believe, getting close to 100 billion now.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And so when we just look at, and I'll tell you, one regret I do have is not buying more at a penny when I had the opportunity. I mean, dude, how many times do we have those investments that we wish we just bought more of?
Yeah, like Solana. Yeah, exactly. but so, yeah, and this is what I always think about too. I'm like, man, if I just would have bought X and Y and Z. But I mean, imagine where we're all going to be in like 5 years. Because remember, think of it this way. In 2013, what people bought back then was like fractions of pennies, essentially. And then all of a sudden, 4 years where they're at in 2017, they're like, phew, pretty simple. Then 2017, I mean, Bitcoin was 20,000, Ethereum was 1,000 at the very peak. But I mean, once it dropped off, everything else, I mean, and then all the things that didn't even exist back then. And Cardano, even at its peak, was less than $1. So like right now, I mean, whatever you bought into. So imagine right now extrapolate that to 5+ years. I don't think anybody's going to be like, oh man, I've only got $10 million. I can't. But there's only so much you can do with money. And this is just investment opinion, not investment advice. I'm not telling you you're going to be a millionaire. Yeah, probably what'll happen is you'll probably sell too soon, like what most people do. But Cardano itself, I mean, there's just a huge upside in that whole thing. And I will tell you this, there's one regret I have about Cardano. And I want to caution everybody. I lost 20,000 Cardano. It just disappeared. And I'm going to tell you how this happened. So this was back in the testnet days, and I bought it for pennies. And I was like, well, I'll just put it on my pad. I had my pad of paper, and I put down my mnemonic phrase somewhere, and I put it in my desk. And then like when they went from the testnet to the live Daedalus wallet, could not find that piece of paper. So 20,000 Cardano is locked up forever. I will never get that back. So this is why I always talk about the Stone book. You can find it. I'm sure Mike's got a link too. And I write down everything, and I have 2 Stone books now, and I don't lose it. So even as much as like I give out the great advice, the biggest advice I can always give out is all my screw ups, because you learn a lot more from mistakes than you do from anything else. So it even happened to me, folks.
I would agree. And right there in the comments section as well, I was going to tell people, for those that just want to know how much Rob lost approximately at the current price, and not to rub it in, but man, Rob, that is crazy, right?
That is crazy. And you know what? I could have sworn I put that paper somewhere safe. And then when I was looking through everything, and because we have different, we travel in our different places, and I looked in both places, like in the third place, and I was like, I don't know what the hell happened to that. And of course, I'm glad my wife's not watching this video, because now she already knows. I'm just kidding. She's like, hey, don't lose that again. I'm like, whatever. I know.
And so if we looked at Solana just 5 years from now, because when we look at the stock market, I think we can argue that in general terms, long term is long term. But when you look at stock market and crypto, I think you can argue that long term can be 5 years compared to that 10 years compared to the stock market. And the reason being is because we're so early and it moves so fast. And so I think we can argue to say a 5-year hold could be considered, not financial advice, but can be considered a potential long term in the crypto space, just because of where we are today. Would you agree or disagree with that?
No, I mean, I would totally disagree. And I was having a discussion with my brother about this, because I'm trying to get him into crypto for the last forever. And he's like, look, man, he goes, I bought Visa 5 years ago, and I'm up, I think he said like 89%. And I was like, oh, that's cute. We called it a Tuesday. And he's like, man, he goes, you don't understand, because it's all going to go to zero. I'm like, whatever. So like everybody has their thing, right? But in all honesty, if we take a look at the gains, I mean, these are asymmetrical returns for what we've actually invested into. And we shorten the length of time to get those gains. So for 5 years is a very long time. But it's just like Charles Schwab says. He goes, everybody has the intelligence to invest in the stock market, but very few people have the stomach. Now take that 2, 5, 10%, and then go over 5 years where you're losing 90%, or not, you're losing, it goes down in value 90%, but then rockets up 200% and back and forth and back and forth. If you can be okay here, it's like New York. If you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. So yeah, 5 years is definitely a long hold, but me and you will probably be here for longer than that.
Yeah, definitely. Because I'm one of those people that won't ever sell all of my crypto.
Yeah, me too.
I'll always keep a percentage, and so that's just, I just believe in the tech too much, and I think we really have that time frame to really just not only make wealth for ourselves, but our families that's going to come up after us if we do it right. I mean, we really have that ability.
Yeah, that's generational wealth right there. And that's why you really got to start planning. But I mean, look at it this way. All this time that we've been investing, we get validated by all the other people that start investing, not just us, like you and me, Mike, and the people watching the video, you watching the video, but it's also these huge banks, these huge institutions. who knows which next country is next to invest into it. So we get validated just like piece by piece, and it kind of keeps us going until the big days come. And I think the big days are right around the corner, honestly.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree. And so I think, of course, as the market goes up, I think we're going to see less and less extreme shock to the market.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like when those halvings happen and
Yeah.
things kind of just go parabolic and then drops down. I think as the market gets bigger, I think we will see, less, dips, as well as maybe less volatility to the upside as it grows.
Well, I hope you're wrong because these days, remember that dip we just had? And,
Yeah.
and what do we say on the channels, our channels?
Be patient.
Be patient. Buy this dip. Not financial advice, financial opinion. I'm going to buy the hell out of it. And I did. And I think both of us did in whatever we bought. And right now, these are the good days. Now, not to say that next week we couldn't see a huge dip again, but if you just, when in doubt, zoom out. Like I stole that from Diddy, actually, from the Bitcoin family. When you do that, when you take a look out and you say, well, all I gotta do is just wait around and no big deal.
Yeah, I'd agree. And so what would you say could be the potential catalyst for Cardano kind of seeing this new all-time high? Because we know we got the smart contracts that should be launched here September 12th, and we got other things that are going on with Solana with partnerships and integrations.
Yeah.
And so what is it that you think is really like kind of driving that price for Cardano right now?
Let me share. I'm going to share my screen, and I'll just show you what I think it is.
All right.
Winda right there. So the thing is, it's not just about, I mean, we all know that right now Cardano is in their smart contract test net stage. And what will be a driving force is if all this time that they have taken to do all these research papers and done all their due diligence and worked with all their developers and everything that has gone through, if they can get through these next 11 days and go live with their smart contracts and go, yeah, we just found a couple of bugs here and there, not a big deal. The price should, I say should because I can't guarantee anything, should go up pretty dramatically. And the reason is because they did everything they're supposed to do, and now they're on that next stage and they can do all these things. So when I think about this was the Cardano ecosystem on May 12th, 2021, which wasn't too long ago. I mean, let's be honest. June, July, August, like 3 months and some change. Now look at the ecosystem today. This wasn't today. This is August 13th, 2021. So when you take a look at everything that is growing and being done, all the different people who say it's vaporware, no one's building on it, blah, 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 sure. You can believe that as much as you want to, but it doesn't change the fact that all these things are actually being done and happening. So if everything works all the way through September 12th, smart contracts go live. That means that decentralized exchanges can go live. That means that decentralized finance and Cardano can go live. NFTs are pretty much, they're already there. Cardano Combat's already done things like that and a host of other things. So this is just one more platform that I think we need to have. And then on top of the different global things and my personal favorite, World Mobile Token, where they really do help out places in Africa and around the country for lack of telecommunications and digital ID and things like that. I think it could be big. So that's the catalyst. Let's see what happens. And then I think the next bigger thing is as it starts to scale, can they, and this is what me and James go around about, is can they actually keep doing these things with the low or the as far as transactions per second, keep them high, and then they can actually scale and not go through the Ethereum effect where everything gets congested and then the price of transactions goes to the roof. We will see. If they can do it, I see some pretty good numbers.
I agree. And so one thing that I do like about Cardano is that they take their time. And so it's shown that, of course, some investors like them to move a little bit faster, but with them taking their time, it has shown success for them. And so over time and in the future for them launching these smart contracts, for me as an investor like you and other people that's watching this stream, I think that gives us more confidence that they are taking their time to make sure that this is done right.
You know what? I used to complain about that all the time. Like when I first started my channel, I'm like, dang, Cardano's so slow. Because like, you know, I built a couple businesses in my day, and I'm like, just throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks, and then just go from there. Because that's what I've done my whole time. And then someone sat me down and explained to me, Rob, you know, the people who make Boeing and all the jets and everything else, barring the last issues that they have, usually they do their due diligence and make sure everything's right before they put people in the air and everything goes haywire. I was like, I got a point. And then when I started to see all these different rug pulls in DeFi, I'm like, okay, now I get it. That makes a lot of sense. And all these different rug pulls, I can guarantee it wasn't the developer's money that was being lost. It was your money being lost. Everybody else watching out there, it was all your money that they played around with, and they didn't do their due diligence. And that's why a lot of people do not trust this space because of what happened.
I hear you. I hear you on that. I hear you on that. And so and if you don't want to, don't do it. But if you had to say in 5 years for Cardano, where do you think just approximately it could be? And this is not financial advice, financial opinion, but this is just, you know, freestyling off the top, just, you know, in a perfect world.
I was on Voyager Heroes show with DJ Crypto and Daniel, and they asked me this question about where is Voyager going to be in 5 years, and I'm going to answer the exact same way. When the internet came around, people had first of all, we were all scared it was going to wipe away all the different jobs that were out there because there was no need for a lot of different things. I mean, even like libraries, like there'll be no libraries. But what happened is that some jobs did go away, but it created other types of things that we had no idea what the heck they were back then. Like, can you imagine in the early 90s, well, for people around, like, for kind of adultish in the early 90s, what an SEO person did? Like search engine optimization, what are you talking about? Or Facebook ads or Instagram ads or some kind of data analytics for your website. People had no idea what the heck that was, and that would actually be a job. So if you talk about, and just take that and how fast we talk about crypto and digital assets are going, in 5 years, I can guarantee you one thing: crypto and digital assets and the apps that we use will look nothing like what we have, and the different functionalities that are out there are going to be so far advanced. We're like, that didn't even exist back in 2021. Can you imagine those idiots? They had no idea what they had. And that's my best answer. We'll have no idea what it'll look like, and it'll look just way different. And hopefully it'll do the things that it says it's supposed to do, which is, you know, help bank the unbanked, as it were, really connect people, bring finance to people that actually really do need it, and then do a lot more good than just making rich people richer. That's what I hope it does.
Well said. I couldn't ask for a better answer, because I mean, at the end of the day, we have no idea, you know, where we're going to be in 5 years. I mean, one thing that's for certain, we know blockchain and crypto is the future. And so with that being said, we know it's going to go up over time, but where it's going to be in 5 years, right? I mean, we have no idea. Of course, we can speculate all day long, but we have no idea.
Yeah, we have no idea. And then yesterday when I did that video, we were looking at the history of prices for crypto, and from July 2017 to December 2017. And in the top 10, there were, and we went down a little bit, we saw the different projects. Some of those aren't even around anymore. And it's like, and that's just 4 short years ago. So if you think like, oh, this one's definitely going to make it, I don't think so. I think there's going to be a shakeout.
I think so too. And I think one thing with stocks, with crypto, if you've been invested for at least 6 months, you have experienced part of the cycle of investing. There's always going to be some type of, you know, news, whether it's positive or negative, that sways the market, or that sways cryptos or stocks that you're holding. And so that's where it comes as for us as investors to really do that due diligence to know what we own, so we don't panic sell, so we don't just go off and be like, oh man, it's going to go to zero, let me sell now, right?
Isn't that that's the absolute key? Because once first of all, if you're just going through like Twitter or YouTube and going, that guy or that gal, she said that's a good buy, I'm going to buy that. And then as soon as things get shaky, you're like, I'm out of here. But that's why, like, you'll have different groups and communities that they've done so much research into their crypto and digital asset. They're like, I'm not selling no matter what happens. I don't care what it is. And you can take a look at any of those those communities. XRP being one of them. Those guys will never sell. Ethereum, when you get deep in them, those guys will never sell. And then Cardano is the same way, never sell. So if you have a lot of people who are like really into it, they've done their research behind the team, the utility, the token, take a look at the roadmap and see where things are going. And you're like, well, I would like to buy this, but no one's selling. What happens to the price? Usually it goes up. So bet on communities, bet on people, bet on utility.
Well said. Well said. And so for the last here, I guess 10 to 15 minutes, you want to open it up for some questions that pertain to kind of what we're talking about, Rob, see what the community has to say. We got about 439 people watching right now. So I do want to say thanks for everyone that's tuned into the stream. We appreciate you guys tuning in. And so I guess one question, let's scroll down here and see. We've gotten questions in here, but let's see what's kind of pertaining to what we're talking about today. And anyone that you see,
Ron Rogers,
you see, go ahead and answer it if you choose to.
Someone asks, so I went to the very beginning because I wanted to see. Ron Rogers says, how can I stake my tomato coin? You can't. It's a joke coin that I created, and I gave it to all my everybody who delegated their Cardano with the DNews stake pool. I gave you a bunch of tomato coin. Who knows where it could be? It was a joke, but so was Dogecoin, and that started off. Who knows? Who is a good one? This is a great one. It's up on it's timestamped at 11:28 a.m. Jaime or Jamie Carvalho says, next entry to get into SOL. It's way up there.
Bam.
So what do you think?
This one here?
Yeah.
Next entry to get into SOL. Well, I put out a video yesterday, and I'm going to answer this question this way. First, ask yourself, why do you want to invest in Solana? Is it because of the hype around it? Or is it because you believe in the technology and the project and what it can do? Once you have that answer, then figure out, are you wanting to hold this for the short term or the long term? Because that's going to truly affect what happens when the price moves up and down. And that's also going to affect how you invest. And so I think first, figure out why you want to invest.
Yes.
And is this a short or long term? Because if you're investing for the short term, I think you put yourself at a higher risk of seeing volatility to the downside compared to the upside, because it's already at all-time highs. Now, granted, I could be wrong on that, but that's just kind of my take on it. And so if you're going to invest for the long term, I still think it's a pretty good buy, but you have to be a long-term investor.
Yeah, and that's perfect. That's a perfect response, because like if you just get into something because you're like, well, that guy, gal said it, and I'm going to get into that one, but you don't really know why, then if things get shaky, you're out. And then later on in a month or two, you're like, shoot, I shouldn't have sold because it went up 100 and 200%. And that's the whole reason for, we always talk about do your own research. And it didn't make much sense to me when I first got into crypto, but now it makes complete sense. And you got to hear it again, 7 to 10 times to get it through. You're like, okay, now I know why I have to do this. So I actually hold on when it gets a little crazy. And if you want to take it even to the next level, this is the same thing, like as far as like getting into a debate with somebody. Take a look at the other side, the flip side, as to why your token, your crypto, your digital asset is worthless, and what people are actually saying about how bad it is, and then formulate your answers from there. And you can actually, if you can argue the other side more effectively than they can, then usually you know a heck of a lot more than a lot of people. And that's where I think the big gains are.
I agree. And this is kind of why I have people like you that's been in the crypto space longer than myself. So this is one thing I'm never fond of. I mean, not fond, but I'm never too good, I guess, to bring people on that I think that knows a lot more than me, because I think it not only benefits me, but it benefits the community and the people that's watching the stream. And so because you've been invested longer in crypto and you've been able to see more things in this space, and so you have knowledge in areas that maybe I may not have, where you can not only help me, but also the people that's watching. And that's what it's all about, you know?
Yeah. And then, of course, well, thanks, Mike. I appreciate it. But remember, Mike also came from the traditional side, stock market and those types of things. So I always learn from him. And then if you want to get somebody who's been in the game for a long time, get Diddy from the Bitcoin family. I've had him on twice. He never disappoints, because me and him go round and round. Because I go, Diddy, I go, how did you do that? Why did you do that? Why did you dump everything in early 2017? I go, wasn't that like a little goofy? And he's like, no, I'll tell you exactly why. And he lays it all out exactly why, based on his experiences and where he was at before. And I'm like, you know what? That does make a lot of sense. And even though we talk about don't going all in, the answers that Diddy gives for that is definitely one of them. So I'll give you guys an introduction. Maybe he can find some time in his gallivanting across the globe to no, he's got time.
Yeah, I have to meet him and bring him on or come on this channel. We have to set that up for sure.
Yeah,
And so
he's got great info.
I always got to give love to the super chats here. And so we kind of answered this, but he says, do you think Cardano have the same potential as Solana from a price perspective? And so when we look at comparing two cryptos, you know, as far as perspective, one, we got to look at the total supply and what's circulating, because those two things really have a lot to do with it, because both projects don't have the same max supply or circulating supply, and plus they have different things that they're trying to accomplish. So I also think that affects the price. And so when we look at price perspective, I think a better way to kind of look at it is maybe market share and market cap, and then what that can do for the actual price. How would you answer that, Rob?
Yeah, I mean, you got to look at, because like this is the same thing of like on TikTok, people were saying Shiba Inu is going to $10. And I'm like, that is statistically impossible. You cannot say something that goofy and back it up because there's like a quadrillion or something like that tokens or whatever else it is. And I'm like, no, it's not going to happen. So I always take a look at total supply, max supply, circulating supply. And I just take a look at, the price action and where it's going from there. So because like, I mean, if you have, and this is why Ethereum is where it's at. If Ethereum's supply wasn't 113 million or whatever else it is, let's say it was 100 billion. Well, obviously the price wouldn't go that high because there's just so much out there. And of course now they're burning it, so it's a little bit different. And then with Cardano, you're looking at 45 billion total supply. That's a lot. But the reason I think what they're doing is because they want to really branch out globally and do a lot of things. So even with that supply, 45 billion, they're still at $3. But for Solana to make that kind of gain, I think Solana can make increase in gains because they're at, what did we say, 480 million.
Yep.
So I mean, of course, I think that they can play a little bit of a catch up, and it could be 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe it could be Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cardano, Solana. Who knows? But yeah, you just got to take a look at, I mean, how much supply is out there and go from there. It's just like the US dollar. You know, they put in trillions of dollars into the supply, and the value went it's going to keep going down. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. And so this question here, this is kind of interesting because I don't think I haven't ever talked about it on my channel, and I don't think you've really ever talked about it either. No. But thoughts on Litecoin? I mean, I really don't have too many thoughts on it, but I guess I would say it's a crypto that has adoption because of Bitcoin. It's kind of like the test run blockchain for Bitcoin. Yeah. And so it is fast. A lot of people use it for payments, and typically you see it in crypto ATMs as well. Yeah. And so I think it has pretty good adoption. I think it can be here for sure, but I don't have any like prices or anything for it.
So I can just say this: if you own Litecoin and it went up, congratulations. I have really no opinion on it. I haven't done a deep dive into why. I used to own it a long time ago. I didn't like the whole thing that Charlie Lee got out. I understand why he got out. He said, all my tweets will like move the market, so I need to get out. But he had to get out at the very, very top. So whatever. But if you own it and it goes up, fine. I just don't see the point and utility of Litecoin. And I know like we were talking to Landon Castle. He's the NASCAR driver that was endorsed by Voyager, and he loves Litecoin because he knows the people, and I think he's on a really deep dive into it. Maybe I just am ignorant on Litecoin, but I just don't own any, and I don't plan to own any. Maybe if someone changes my mind, I might say, oh, it does this thing, so maybe I should take a look at it.
Understood. I hear you there. And so I got a question here on IOTA, and I don't think you own IOTA, if I'm correct, Rob. Right?
No, I do. I do own IOTA, and I don't know if you talked about it or someone else talked about it. So I looked into it, and I actually had one of the CEOs on the channel, and it makes a lot of sense. But they're like a really long-term play because they're pretty ambitious project what they're doing. So so this is funny. The time that I bought IOTA was, remember that tweet that Elon Musk put out, the car salesman. And it was something that he said that dropped the market like dramatically. Oh, I think it was like they're going to stop accepting payments for Bitcoin, even though they weren't doing anything anyhow. And the market just like dropped way down. And I had just come back from a birthday party and I was a little bit tipsy, honestly. And I just said, damn it, this is the dumbest thing ever. And I just looked at what was down heavily and I was like, IOTA, that's a good one. And I bought a bunch of IOTA. And then I also bought Solana. And I also bought Ethereum. And I bought a bunch of stuff that night. And I woke up the next day, I'm like, it'll probably be well, and worked out okay. That's definitely not financial advice, folks. Don't do that. But I was just so ticked off that happened. And IOTA has actually done pretty good for me.
Yeah, it's a project that I got into earlier this year. And it's kind of had a decent run up. So someone asked what was our thoughts on it. So if we look at IOTA on the 24 hours, we can see it's up almost 25%. You know, that's, and what's today? Thursday. That's what we call it, Thursday, according to Rob.
That's it, man. That's it. And then like, it's kind of funny. Like, this is the time. I remember this is the time, just like in 2017, when you could just blindfold yourself, throw a dart at the board, and you'd hit massive gains. And that's where we're at. And that's why people are always talking about the faster horse, because you want to bet on the one that doesn't do 25%, the one that does 250%. But in all honesty, if you pick a project that you like, you feel it has utility, you like the mission behind it, and you feel like this team is awesome, then just ride that out. That's what I do.
Same here. And that's kind of why I have that, that long-term approach to things. I'm kind of like old soul investor, if you will.
Yeah.
Because, I'm not really big into like trading or taking profits at this level, or watching the RSIs overbought or oversold, or, those things, which I think I have, family and people like that who make money doing it like that. It's just kind of wasn't my cup of tea. So I don't knock it by any means, because I'm a big believer of, if it works for you, capitalize on it. Right.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and my thought is, I put out this exit strategy, but of course, just like Mike, I am never going to sell everything. But things have changed a little bit because, like with the whole advent of staking, it really just changed the game. So everything that you can stake, I'm just going to stake a bunch of it, and that's it. And the only time that I'm thinking about cashing out is, once it starts to get to this like ridiculous level, I'll definitely have to take some profits. I mean, there's no two ways around it. But right now, I sold a little bit of Ethereum at a price point because it hit it. I think it was 3,200 or something like that. 3,000 something. I don't know. But the only other time that I sell things is because of my stake pool with DNews. Every week we take 100 ADA and we do micro loans, donations to kiva.org for the unbanked. So that's about it. Other than that, I'm just kind of waiting. I mean, I don't really need too much, so I'm good.
I hear you. Same here. I'm not using, any of my investments, to live off of. I mean, none of them. So I'm just kind of the ones I can stake and build passive income on while getting that long-term wealth makes perfect sense to me. It's like the easiest.
Hey man, did you put out that video for staking Solana like I asked?
I did.
Okay, I see.
I tagged you in it too.
No,
but I will tell you, I did switch over to, I did the tutorial on Moonlet, which is a little bit more difficult than Atomic Wallet. And I switched over my Solana from Moonlet, and I'm staking it on Atomic Wallet now. So it's at 7% per year that you can get on Solana, which is not bad at all.
Okay, so it's Solana. Hold on. Sorry, everybody. I got to do this now. I also forget. Mike the Investor, Solana staking. God dang it, there it is. All right. Yeah, I was wrong.
No, you're all good.
How to stake Solana, 11.62% on Moonlet, and then you got the Trust Wallet. That was 2 months ago.
Yep. So it's no longer that percent. So they moved it down to about 7% now. And okay. So I'm also, and have you used Atomic Wallet before, Rob?
Everybody loves it. I've used it a long time ago.
Okay. I was going to say it's so easy. I mean, literally once you create the wallet, it's just a one click to stake it. So, I mean, you really don't even need a tutorial for it. Way easier than Moonlet, because you got to go through like the delegating and all of that.
Yeah.
And so to answer a quick question here, Angel, she asked, do I still own BTT? Yes, I still own BTT. Rob, you know what? And I love it too. But you know what? Regardless what crypto I talk about, I can't get away from BTT, and regardless what crypto you talk about, you can't get away from Cardano. You know, so I
Yeah.
just guess that's kind of our fate, right?
That's our fate. And then everybody else out there, I own Ethereum a lot. I own Cardano a lot. And I own Solana a lot. So like, don't you like Rob's a shill for Cardano? No. I want them all to go up. You don't understand. So yeah. So Mike, same thing, right? BTT.
I agree, but yes, my opinion on BTT is I'm still holding, and so I would say if you just go back and you just go to my YouTube channel here briefly, and you just type in BTT on the search bar, you'll see all of the videos I have. Like, it's the most talked about crypto on my channel, and so there's only so much I can talk about a crypto, right? And so unless we have some more good catalysts to come up. And so with BTT, I'm still holding. And the people that actually bought in when I very first start talking about it at a tenth of a penny where I purchased, they're still in profits. You know, even when the market dipped and Bitcoin was down to 29K and the market was like 1.4 trillion, I was still up almost a 3x. You know what I mean? And so the people that didn't FOMO in to buy, or really that have that long-term perspective, you know, those are the people that's really not worrying about what's happening right now with BTT.
Yeah, and I know people like it's hibernating and it's not doing too much. I remember the same thing was said about XRP back in the day in 2017, and it pumped like the last, but it pumped pretty darn hard at the very last moment. So, I mean, in all honesty, I don't see how most of is BTT in the top 200?
Yes, it's in the top 100.
Okay, so I don't see how anything in the top 100 can't pump when everything starts going a little crazy. It's just inevitable, and that's all I got.
Yeah. And so what do you think about this question? I think that we'll do maybe the last question unless we get another good one here. I know Rob's a busy man, but what do you think about this? I think this is pretty exciting news. What are your thoughts on the Miami city creating their own token? First city to do it. And this is actually kind of news to me. So if this is legit, I mean, I think that's pretty big.
Yeah. So I haven't heard it either, but this is, I think, Mayor Suarez. He's, of course, he's a big Bitcoin fan. So I think let me take a look at the token. First, I'd like to know what blockchain it's built on. That will be interesting to figure out. Is that on the Ethereum blockchain? Is that on Solana? Is that on Tomato Coin? What is it on? The second thing I want to know is, what does it do? What is the utility for it? Is it to pay for like taxes? Is it an easy way for people to pay vendors or something like that? And it's only in Miami? That would be interesting. And then I guess the last thing is, I just wonder, like, when is it going to come out and how do you buy it? And then, there's so many questions I have with that one. It sounds great, but just like a lot of different products out there, but what does it do and who built it and what is it built on and what's the max supply and da-da-da-da. I have to look that up for today. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's well said, Rob. Like, what blockchain, what's it going to do? I think all of that's important, but I definitely think it's a fun piece in the crypto space right now.
Yeah. Imagine if every city had its own token. That'd be crazy. That'd be like, no, go ahead.
No, I was going to say it would be, but you can kind of see how it could happen, even though I think it would be a little bit overkill, but you could see how it could happen, right?
You know what? It would almost be the same, like, when you travel and you got to do exchange for your cash. Like you go to Spain. Okay, well, now I got to transfer this over the US dollars, or Mexico to pesos or whatever else. Wouldn't it be interesting? Like, every city that you go to, you would just have like a super app wallet, kind of like how China has WeChat, and they have all these different things that are in there, and you just kind of transfer it over automatically, and then off it goes. But it's like, well, first of all, what does it do? And then also got to think about, well, that's interesting because, like, now that the city can track all your payments and where things go and what's going on, I don't know. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. And so the last question here, I think I'm going to ask here is Super Chat. He says, what's the price prediction for StormX? And then the second question, Patreon link is down in the description. So definitely check that out. But price prediction for StormX. I guess we're asking maybe for the end of the year, maybe 5 years, I guess, give or take. I think StormX is right around 3.5 cents right now, give or take, somewhere around there. And it's recovered a little bit.
It's down there. I forgot. First of all, I like Simon Yu and what he's doing over there with StormX. I like that they're getting into marketing. Now you're going to see him all over the Portland Trailblazers, which is, if you're not from America, it's professional basketball team here in the States. And I think he could do pretty well. And actually, it's one of those types of projects where you buy things online, they give you crypto cash back. And in actuality, like a couple of people have actually bought like Adidas, and it was almost free because the price appreciation for the StormX. So, I mean, I think I gave a price prediction of a quarter, which was pretty ambitious. I think that was like my second craziest price prediction. I have two crazy price predictions. I think StormX, which may not be crazy, or I think it was between 10 cents and a quarter. Yeah. But my next craziest one was Voyager, which was $30. And everybody says that's crazy. That may be true, but I also have some realistic expectations. Like Bitcoin, I said at 130,000, and Ethereum between 9 and 10,000, which I think can totally happen. So yeah, 10 cents to a quarter seems pretty realistic, especially with the traction they're going. And if they can bring Walmart back and Amazon, that's game over. So we'll see.
I would agree. And yeah, price is right around that 3.5 cents. And if we look at that circulating supply, they don't have a big supply like that. And so if we just look at $1 for StormX puts it at 10 billion. I mean, when we look at a long-term perspective, that's not a lot of money. Definitely for a first mover advantage company like StormX.
Crazy, right? Yeah, that is crazy. And you know what's crazy about StormX? They've been around since like 2014, 2015. I think it's 2014. They've been doing this for a long time, and they've been grinding, and they're just always putting out new great things. So we'll see how it translates. Again, it doesn't really matter how great a project is. It's about how that message gets put out and marketing. And that's the big thing and what we talk about it. So it's a good thing me and Mike are talking about it. So yeah.
I would agree. But Rob, before we get out of here, is there anything that you would like to let the community know, or anything you would love to share? As far as Dan teaches crypto, which definitely helps out a lot of newer investors. He has his own Solana staking pool as well.
No, Avalanche staking pool. I don't mess around with Solana. That is.
I mean, not Solana. I meant to say Cardano.
Cardano. Yeah.
I apologize.
So like the only thing I'll show is like Mike said, danteachescrypto.com, and it's 100% free. I made it free at the disdain of people around me, because I figured like this, like in the States, we can all afford $1, $3, $10, $20 a month, right? But in other parts of the world, like if you're looking at Bangladesh or Middle East or Central America, that's a lot of money. So I just said, I'm just going to make it free, and I keep it free. The only way that it's monetized is there's some affiliate links, and I totally talk about that in the very beginning. So if you want to learn about the basics, safety, some different strategies that I use as far as like finding the research and actually exit strategies and all that, just go to danteachescrypto.com. As well as we've got two stake pools. One is for Cardano and one is for Avalanche. And it's at the very top right-hand corner. It just says staking. Then there's a video about 20 minutes that explains exactly how to do it. And we're doing pretty good. And that's it. That's my shill section.
Well, man, sounds good. Remember, if you haven't already, subscribe to Digital Asset News, Rob. His YouTube link is down in the description. And then he's also a featured channel on the channel as well. So if you ever see him, just go ahead and subscribe. He gives great content almost daily. So definitely consider checking him out. So Rob, thanks for coming on the show. And what a good time to be in crypto right now.
Yeah. For everybody watching right now, tip of the hat. You got here right at the right time. I mean, it's like, this is the time I wish I would have got into it back in the day, and actually right now. So if you're here, great job. But just remember, it's not going to go straight up. There's going to be some regression. There's going to be some ups and some downs. Just stick with it. Over time, things usually work out, and that's all I can say to you. And just make sure that you're not putting everything in right now. Be a little safe. That's all.
Well said. Well said. Well, thanks for tuning into the stream. I think we had a peak of about 530 people at one time. So
hey, watch out.
Not a lot of people watching, right? So,
just a couple people.
Just a couple. But thanks everyone for tuning in. Really appreciate all the loves and the super chat. And until next time, future millionaires, we are out.